I'd like to call to order the Perry, regular meeting of the Perry Municipal Authority, June 6th, 2022, at 6:15. Roll call, please.
Wines. Marshall.
Here.
White.
Here.
Coffee.
Here.
Brown. Delbeck. Bond.
Here.
Coldarn.
Here.
Stroller.
Here. I do declare a quorum. Could you join me for invocation? Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for the opportunity to gather here and do the work of this great city. I ask that you bless us and give us the knowledge we need to make the improvements in this town. Pray this in your Son's name. Amen. First item, number 1, the consent agenda. There's one item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Marshall.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
Coldarn.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Item 4, comments from those assembled pertaining to the items on the PMA agenda. Hearing none. Item 5, proclamation, accommodation, reports, inquiries by the governing body. Hearing none. Item 7, new business that needs to come before the PMA. Item 8, motion on adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Marshall.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
Coldarn.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Perry, June 6, 2022, at 6:17. Roll call, please.
Wines. Here. Marshall.
Here.
White.
Here.
Coffee.
Here.
Brown. Delbeck.
Here.
Bond.
Here.
Coldarn.
Here.
Stroller.
Here, I do declare a quorum. Item 1 is the consent agenda. There's a few items there.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines. Yes. Marshall.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Delbeck.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
Coldarn.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 4, comments from those assembled pertaining to the items on the city agenda. Hearing none. Item 5, proclamation, accommodation, and reports by the governing body. Hearing none. Item 6, conduct a preliminary public hearing on the City of Perry's 2022-2023 general fund budget and other budgets, receive input from the public, discuss revenues, transfers, expenditures, and all related finance issues. Okay, we are now in a public hearing to discuss the budget.
This is our preliminary hearing.
Yes.
We're going to give notice of this and hold another one in 14 days from now. Russ should be here in a minute.
Sorry.
And of course, it is his budget. We have laid out some of the issues for purposes of this budget. We've discussed the rate increases. I think that, as I think we've told you, that solid waste has gone up 2%. And of course, the consumer price index has gone up 9.1%, which is the highest rise in 40 years. And so the recommendation is a 4% utility rate hike. Health insurance has gone up 10%, and at this point I'll defer over to the CFO. We're on the city agenda, and we're on item 6,
Item
which
6,
is conduct
the
the
preliminary hearing.
preliminary public hearing.
Did you start through what so the budget that has been presented and the budget that we're talking about includes effectively $125,000 loss in operating revenues for the city and the PMA, our two operating entities. Included in that budget are 90% revenue projection for our sales tax, use tax, all of our franchise fees, and our reoccurring revenues. We've also included in that budget a 4% across the board utility rate increase for our electric, water, sewer, and trash. That increase generates approximately additional $464,000 for the city out of increases. In the current budget, there are 14 positions budgeted that do not have an individual filling them. But we also have not budgeted any capital outlay for the city for this fiscal year. The request from the general fund and the PMA for capital outlay is approximately $515,000. The unbudgeted position, or the budgeted but unfilled positions approximate $925,000. So hopefully, somehow between an allocation in those budgets, we can, between cutting unfilled positions and funding capital outlay, we can get to a balance point on that side. There are some additional projects that have not been included in the budget, but long-term need to be addressed, or some short-term need to be addressed, some long-term that need to be addressed. The biggest short-term need is related to the streets and their need for a facility to house the office complex, what would be the shop, and then some more storage space for vehicles and those kind of things. The overall authorization, you could adopt the budget today, but like I said, it has no, first of all, you can't adopt it today. I'm saying we presented a budget that could be adopted. We will do that at the next meeting. But in all of those things, we still need some cleanup. As we've individually kind of talked, and I've answered some questions today, I think there's more questions that need to be had. But that's the summary of the budget, and I guess we'd open it for public comment or questions from the public related to the budget that we have.
And or the council.
The 10% in health,
You just have to ask a question.
the 10% in healthcare insurance, that's budget, is that factual? I mean, I know that is that our estimate or is that in?
That is the number, yes. We
Okay,
will be
maybe
just
that's
under
the-
10%
Okay.
on the renewal quote. It's right at $120,000 a year.
The increase this year
The increase, yes,
is 120.
will be 120. It's just under $10,000 a month.
Does that include all the positions that are open?
No, that
Is
does
that
not,
figured into?
that
the
increase
cost?
does not include the positions, that increase, whenever I say $120,000 increase, that does not include, they aren't on our bill yet, but we've taken that number and put that in the health insurance
Okay,
cost
gotcha.
on the bill. So I've included it in the total budget, but if I'm
Right, got it.
referencing two different numbers, slightly different numbers there, but
For all open positions.
all open positions
this
are
time.
budgeted, yes, to
At the
have,
new rate.
yes, at the new rate, and to have family health care coverage.
Okay.
So there may be some employees that we hire that don't have. It's about a $7,000 difference between family coverage and single coverage.
Those of you that was in the first budget session a while ago, in the second budget session, I was asking Russ, sewer and water haven't made money in a long time. What would it take to get that area to make money? What'd you say, it has to be like a 30% increase?
Yeah, it'd be right at a 30% increase in order for sewer to get to break even and water to get to break even. And so I went ahead and expanded that analysis just a little bit. And I told the third group about this, so you guys look at your notes and hold me to make sure I said the exact same thing. But if we did, don't worry, I know somebody will. If we did the 30% in sewer and we did the 30% in water, we could effectively do a 6.57% decrease in our electric rate and still end up at the same total increase in revenues for the year.
We also talked about if we could do a 2% increase in electric and do, what'd you say, 11 or 12% increase
I think
in
it's
water, sewer,
13.5.
something like that.
13.5 in water and sewer.
And still get,
Essentially coming up with the same amount of money?
The numbers are gonna be the same.
Yes, that's
The
exactly what I
burden, the burden
said.
on
The
the.
burden on the citizens is going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's all in one bill,
But
that's how
what
I'm gonna see it.
But what it does for us is it gets our utilities more in line with tracking at least break even, if
Of
not
each area.
profitable. Because one of the complaints and one of the discussions that always comes from the public is when I compare my Perry utility electric rate to Stillwater or to whoever, rural electric, you know, I don't care which one, those numbers are different, you know, and why is it so much more? Well, I can tell you why it's so much more, because those others don't provide your police, your fire, you know, they don't provide for your streets, they don't provide for all of your other services that we provide for. Yet, we still have to charge an adequate profit margin to be able to continue to pay all of our employees.
when the public asks us, what is the cost for your electric? And if we only do a 2% increase and we raise the water sewer, when they ask us, what does electric cost? It's not as much as if we had to raise it 4 or 5, 6%. We need to, in my mind, I was trying to figure out a way we could raise the items that aren't making money and not have such an increase in the electric.
Totally understand.
I see both sides of the coin.
I mean, at the end, it all comes out the same,
It
you're
comes out the
right.
same, and also 30 is harder to swallow than 2 or 4.
Well, I agree, I'm not asking for, I don't think we should do 30.
I'm just,
But
yeah. I
if we do
just
a 10 or 12% in those areas, and a 2% in electric, at some point, I would like to get every line item
Right.
at least a break even.
One of my constituents asked the question, what is the city doing to cut where they can cut back? Has there been any action taken to cut back on expenses anywhere, you know?
Well, we
I
have,
would start-
we have 14 employees that,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to,
Fill the
but
position.
you don't have to fill the positions. I mean, that's a cutback of,
$900,000.
and 15% of, right, of.
And we have been
total
cutting several of
employees.
those positions for more than 1 year.
Yeah,
So,
But I'm not,
start at this level. Outside of our wholesale electric, you gotta factor that out of our expense structure. About 72 to 74% of our budget is spent on personnel. Okay? So people make up the majority of what we do. We're a service industry. If we don't have people, we really can't do our jobs. I mean, we can outsource, we can outsource a handful of things, but we're not gonna do anything if we don't have people. You go back then and you look at what are we paying in materials and supplies and other charges, for our insurances and those kind of things. I mean, guys, there's very little in the contractual adjustment that we haven't dialed back since 2018, really. I mean, in the last 4 years, whenever we took that $300,000 a year cut from losing Walmart and we dialed back the expenses then, we dialed back personnel, we dialed back all those operating expenses to what they needed to be. You take that factor that we were already dialed back, unlike a lot of people, that didn't lose a major sales tax provider for their community, we did. We made cuts then that nobody else was making in 2018. Everybody else was gung-ho, man. I mean, sales tax was going up, utility, I just about lost it. We even need new chairs for council meetings so that I don't fall off the back, all right? But all of those, everybody else is going up. we were going down, and we were making cuts then in 18. You compound that with the fact that, yes, we may have had a 1% and a 1.8 and a 2.1 CPI during those years, that effectively we didn't increase our operating expenses, yet the overall cost of our goods that we were buying, the chemicals that we buy to treat the water, the fuel that we're putting in the cars, the electric lines, Brian's not here, I mean, the copper wire that we had to pay for that's now 4 times higher than what it was originally. Everything that we bought continued to go up. And then this year, that number, starting in about November, compounded another 7, 8, 9.1 at the max %. You know, literally, we effectively, if we stay status quo and we do not increase our operating budget, the material supplies and other charges and services, if we don't increase that, we've effectively taken a 10% haircut on what we can buy next year as far as quantity of goods, just because of where it is. If it's in our fuel line item, we've had a 75, an 80% increase in the cost of fuel. So we either buy 75 or 80% less fuel than what we did last year, which I'm only pointing to Brian because his is the largest fuel budget that we have. Or, you're welcome, Brian.
I'm proud of it.
Or we turn around and say, how are we going to actually increase that, but not increase it a full 10% that we had? I know we say we need to cut. By not increasing dollars that we spend in those areas, we have already cut a 10% number out of our budgets. And that's going to be my stance. And we can go pull invoices. I know it was requested from the earlier group, can you get me a list of what we were paying last year for this versus what we're paying this year for this? It's just kind of an example of all of those big purchase items, and there are larger items, but,
Well, I think that's
what are we
what
paying for
our
that stuff?
people, our residents need to hear is, that we did cut back and have been cut back for the past 2 years. And also, would you say that a person who has a $200 utility bill, it would increase it by what, $8?
$8.
A month?
Yeah, about $8 a month is what the increase would be.
I didn't ask this earlier, but the way things are now, when we bought that asphalt zipper, we knew it was going to cost a certain amount to use it. With the budget the way it stands, are we still going to be able to use that after we bought it? Because I'm sure all that stuff has gone up just the same. And
Well, I would, Larry, but I think the first problem in using that asphalt zipper is having enough people to use it. And part of the 4 open positions are in, Larry, I'll let you answer the question.
Streets, no doubt about that, to do that. So the question is, do you do streets or not?
That's not the only question, though. That is a question that we have to answer, and obviously we have to take care of our streets, and we also bought the zipper because we were also running out of the funds to be able to pay other people to do it, and so it was a way for us to still take care of roads in-house. So yeah, those people have to come up, but there's still other people that we're probably gonna have to talk through and go, we can't get all of them. If streets are our priority, because we've bought equipment, because they're in need, and because we have a need that we've used some of the funds to be able to do that, then that's a priority that we can talk through. But there's other priorities that probably have to come off the table that are going to have to wait until eggs don't cost $4 a dozen. There's just some things that are gonna have to give until things, I don't know. I guess when you look at a budget, some things have to tighten up. And so when I look at this budget, I feel like we have to make sure have we done all the tightening that we can and still stand behind the budget that we have in front of us. But I do want my street fixed.
We have the duty to meet and negotiate labor contracts with our police and fire department. And, we sit across from them and we recognize that costs have gone up 9.1%. And they've gone up for everybody, in this place, including the employees. We met with both fire and police today, and, you know, it's time to start making offers. Any offer that we make is contingent upon the council approving it. But we did tie today because we've been talking about a 4% offer. It's contingent, of course, upon available revenue. Not to say that you can't take it from other revenue, but, you know, we said today that without the utility rate increases, it would be difficult for us to offer, you know, the employees less than half of what the CPI increase was. We recognize that with respect to the healthcare, at least subject to, you know, what we do on those utility rates, we would cover, which we've done in the past, cover that portion of the healthcare that's gone up. And other than that, there weren't really any other items on either of their proposals to speak of. So they have been reasonable. I mean, it's all contingent on of course, what the council does, but, you know, those contracts are supposed to be negotiated by the end of this month. I think that, you know, a number of them are here today, and they're interested in the city council's thoughts about that. But those meetings were today. So, but of course, no offer was made. Any offer has to be contingent on what the council approves, and it's all contingent upon available sources of money. It's a different year. I mean, for it seems like 20 years we've had incredible stability in prices and low cost of living, low interest rates, and now we've got you know, this is a banner year in a year where the market is getting hammered, may continue to get hammered. Luckily, Perry is seeing some amazing growth with the addition, with some of the additions out at the plant. Love's, Dollar General. We've got a planning commission meeting on a site plan on Thursday. Dollar General, Family Dollar. You know, that retail that's been coming is unusual up and down the I-35 corridor. At least it's not happening very much in other places. So there's some real positive things that are happening here, but some of that income won't be realized until those operations occur. And today we discussed, well, what would be the impact of that? Boy, that's great if that revenue comes in, and it will be great. But, you know, we predict that additional sales tax at maybe $100,000, and you know, we got 4.25%. 1 cent of that goes to the general fund. So less than $25,000. I mean, with all that development going on, the general fund will get 25% or $25,000 into the general fund, which is why, without property taxes, there's this reliance upon utility rates. Now, you know, I've preached a long time about getting our utilities for each one of our departments to be commensurate with our costs. I mean, I've been saying that for years and years and years. And to have a utility that doesn't operate in the black, you know, you almost want to say, give it to somebody who will run it in the black. We need to be responsible stewards, you know, in our trust. And in addition to that, we should take the pressure off electric, because people do compare. And although it's not a fair comparison, because you know, as compared to K-Rural and CREC, you know, you are getting a fire department, a police department, and zoning and planning and code and parks and all of that. And, you know, what they're getting is, you know, just having to do wages and buy wholesale electric and poles and wires. And so, you know, it's not a fair comparison of that rate versus our rate, but to keep hold of that rate, if we could keep that rate down, you know, as costs go up, you know, our number would come more into line. And certainly, these other utilities ought to operate in the black. And if you could take, you know, a couple of years to get them in the black, that would, from a fiduciary relationship, from a trust relationship, be really good. It is, of course, up to you. There's a city north of here that passed a 40% increase in sewer rates, of sanitary sewer, of which Russ is the CFO and recommended that. In order to get that utility, it's going to take 2 of those increases in order to get it to the black. And that council elected, let's do that. Not that you have to, but the reliance on, in this day and age, with options in electric, you know, and that includes battery storage, distributed generation, for all kinds of parties, you know, in this town. Keeping our electric rate competitive and not raising that and using that to fund these departments, kind of reversing that a bit would be smart. Now, that's not what we presented you today in this next item. In the next item, we presented a 4%, you know, across the board, which once again is less than half of the CPI increase. But Russ brought it up, and we did it somewhere else, and although nobody liked it, it passed at a public hearing without comment. So just some of my thoughts. It's your city, and you, of course, know what the traffic can bear.
I also think we need to make note that this is a preliminary public hearing and not a vote.
Any further discussion?
I have a question. You're talking about and water not making any money, but on page 12 of this packet that we got, it has from fiscal year 2021 that they were in the black.
Okay, the fiscal year 21 does not include, so the column you're looking at there is the audited column, that's full accrual, okay? It doesn't include the capital outlay or the principal debt payments in that number. So there are different bases of accounting that we have to do. For those numbers to tie up to the audit, we have to give you the full accrual numbers. Whenever we say it's not making money on an annual cash flow basis, that's where you look at this year's budget number.
So in these approved budget and projected budget, in the other 3 columns,
Yes.
those include all these expenses, the outlay, capital outlays and debt payments and all that is included in all those numbers?
The approved budget, yes, includes that piece, you know, at the 10,000. And then the projected budget, yes, includes, or projected for this budget year is where we are estimating the year will finish this year based on the full cash basis pieces. Then if you flip back, which this is the discussion that actually we had in the last group, if you'll flip back up to page 10. Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead, take over.
no, I just needed to, so I can pointer, where,
Right.
there at the very bottom, you see the sewer department itself. If you're looking across there, you know, you're going from $240,000 in salaries and wages in the sewer department to $280,000. We've got $40,000 increase related there. You've got pretty much the flat numbers related to our materials and supplies and our other charges and services. You'll see the big decrease in the debt service from the first column, which is the actual, because it doesn't include the principal portion of that debt reduction. But in the budget years, we have to budget the full amount. And you can see that, we go up a little over $10,000. Actually, it's a little more than that. It's probably closer to $14,000 in additional expenses related to the debt service, because our debt service does climb as those bond payments come up and down. Then we do have the drainage expense and the capital outlay that is the REAP grant, the $40,000 portion of the REAP grant. Thank you to Matt for that, by the way. Your deal. So that's included in the budget. Mind you, that $40,000 is funded also by grant money, booked up above. But you can kind of see the detail. Page 12 is that summary number, but this kind of gives you the breakout, for each of those columns, if you want to look in particular.
This personnel expense, the 40,000 increase, does that include?
That includes the one
The
open
adding.
position.
Okay.
Yes, that is.
Was that
that's
figured into here?
No, that's not figured into there.
Okay.
No, it has been reduced whenever it didn't
What is here?
materialize.
What'd you point to?
On sewer,
third
the
column.
personnel services,
Between the projected budget for this year and
that
the approved
40,000
budget.
increase. On 3, you have it budgeted at like 52,000.
Yeah, and this has overtime in it because, so you've got to remember, this includes overtime because we didn't have full positions. So the net increase is about $40,000, dropping the overtime.
The other person.
Give or take, but you see what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
we've got, you've got a couple of those little things we have to factor in.
Okay.
I just try not to complicate that too much.
I assume the same stuff goes for water too.
Yes. Water should be on the top of page 11. Remember? Yeah, the top, page 11 on water.
So we've got an $80,000 increase there.
Again,
And
there's
a
an
big
open
part of that is
position.
the open position. Okay.
Exactly.
You are correct.
Russ, we went over all kinds of stuff in our meeting. Is this where I should
Yeah,
ask
we can,
some of those?
yeah, we can talk about
questions?
those at this point, or as we talked, I mean, one of the things we said in that meeting was, let's hold a all-council work session.
Yeah, that's what I was
It
gonna ask about.
depends on how long you guys want to go tonight, I mean, we can sit here and, this is the public hearing, we can talk about this stuff right now, or if you would rather, maybe you want to, let's put a temporary hold on this, recess this item, let's finish the agenda, see where we are timeline-wise. If you guys want to go for another hour tonight or another 2 hours tonight, I can do that. You see what
I
I'm
just
saying?
don't know if I have all the things in front, like I asked for a material comparison. I think it'd be nice to be able to see on average what some of those charges are that we've been able to experience and have to manage as a city compared to where we are now. A workshop, I do think that we should get together and really understand if we're asking for these things, what it would give and take. Larry, part of what I believe that we should look at is also more of like, what would we hold back on personnel? We have all these openings, what's the priority? What's, 6 or 7 or a half, what does that get us? What do we have to give up? And more.
Well, in our little session, he pointed out those things.
Okay,
We didn't have that.
We didn't have time since you guys,
Somebody
kind of-
Yeah, that's why
So
we
some of us
asked
can
for
get all those
additional
answers,
sessions.
It wasn't a
and
second.
I would also like to see a budget that is a little bit different than the 4%, and what do we have to give up? And so those were some of the things that I asked Russ if we could look at, and that's where the workshop came about, is we should maybe dive in deeper. That was, but again, we were at the end, and so we were rushing, trying to to get our answers and to get here as close to this time as we could, so.
Well, I warned him an hour wasn't gonna work.
What's the next evening that you have? That's free for you?
Looking at next week is really where I'm gonna have to go.
Thursday?
At this point.
Wednesday?
Well, potentially I'd have to do it on Wednesday evening. I'm waiting on, so my daughter's qualified for Adidas National in discus, fly out on 16th, but we're only going if she also qualifies in shot. I won't know that until the end of the weekend, so, just a side brag there, if you guys don't mind, but yeah, she's not doing too shabby. Anyhow, so Wednesday night, or Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, really, I will move
So if
another
you'd like
meeting
to
do
have,
that.
does that work for anyone?
What was it?
Wednesday night?
Next Wednesday night?
I'll be out of town, but. that
We'll be in
would
town
be,
the
uh,
15th.
I
15th
wanna be
is
catching up.
what Wednesday is, yes.
I'm in town.
During the, well, you'd need it in the evening.
Yeah, I have an
Yeah.
appointment at 4:30 that day, so it'd have to be after that.
I'm good too.
6:15 on Wednesday?
The 15th.
Yeah, the 15th?
Works for me.
We have to bring our own dinner. I don't want to go to midnight again and not get to eat. I'm getting hangry.
We'll bring cookies.
She's gonna get angry.
I'm gonna get hangry if I let you stay and I can't eat again.
We'll be here.
What were those
What were those
percentages?
6 people? Yeah. what-
Sorry, go ahead.
7, the 4th Street,
Huh?
the 7.
Oh, no, I think, yeah, maybe.
What percentage are you asking for?
Yeah, well, let's give him some.
So decrease in electric is
We're
7.
just talking about some of the
And then
increases.
30 in each one of the sewer and water increase.
And then there was another option to.
2 and 11, 2 and 11, 2 and
13 and a half, 13
To
and a half.
increase electric 2% and then 11 or 13 in each of the other two.
Okay.
This would be good, because if we came to at least some direction, we still would have the posted, meeting on
Sure.
the 20th, but the agenda could be better structured than it is today.
I think that would make all of us more comfortable if we did it this way.
We have that meeting here or?
Yeah, here.
So what additional items did we need?
I just asked for materials. I mean, if that's, I know it's fuel, I mean, I know it's the same things that we're seeing, but I think it'll be good for us to see those type of increases that are in front of us to understand the cost that we're having to bear at this time. So,
We'll get needed to start pulling those.
and it wasn't every agenda, but it was, I would like to see
The
some.
high ticket items, like if fuel increased 30%, what does that mean? Is what we asked.
Electric. There was a lot of components in there that we've seen increase. Just an idea to understand where the material increase, what type of percentage we're looking at, and what type of increases have been coming in.
Perhaps a listing of the employees that we're absolutely needing to fill.
Is that
and
not
then-
the list that y'all went through?
Well, yeah, there's
Yeah, they
still
agree-
14
they agree.
there, but, I mean, the absolute minimum that we need to fill, and
Yeah.
then with respect to the balance of that money, what we think the capital improvement projects ought to be, the absolute most important ones, then you can decide among those whether to grant those or whether you offset, like you talked about, the rates with some of that.
Yep.
I mean, that would be,
I think that's
That
what we
would be
need to go
good,
through, is
right.
really
Yeah.
understand
Agreed.
what we're gonna be getting and what we're gonna be giving up,
Right.
and how do we
Right.
balance that to the
Right.
best of our ability.
Okay.
Yep.
Everybody happy? as can be.
It'd definitely be more transparent that way.
I agree. It'll be more transparent.
So Bryce,
Yeah, I think you can skip, I think you should move 7. I don't think you even need to read them.
what about item E? You just want to redo that one? Grace Hill?
Yeah, we'll bring all those
All of them
back.
back?
Yeah, we'll bring all those back in some form.
No, you actually have to read each one of those individually. You gotta
Yeah,
read
I'm on to this. Item 8. And we are now out of public hearing. Item 8, consider certain items pertaining to the fireworks and firework display. Item A, consider approval of ordinance number 2022-15, amending Chapter 10 of the Perry Municipal Code 2022 by the amendment of Section 10-705 entitled Firework Regulations, selling fireworks within the city limits, permit required by the addition of subsection G, governing the possession and discharge of fireworks and public display of fireworks at CCC Lake, CCC Park, Perry Lake, and surrounding city property, providing for repealer savings codification, severability, penalty, and declaring an emergency. Apparently, there's been some discussion from somebody about this, correct?
Yeah, Chief Brand will provide comments.
So over the past month or two, for whatever reason, we've had numerous requests for people to display fireworks and have just parties that have fireworks involved at CCC Lake Park. The issue with CCC Lake Park is obviously, there's one time a year that the city of Perry essentially designates an area at Perry Lake, which is southwest of Perry, for residents in the community to go out and pop fireworks and have a licensed fireworks display. Those folks are licensed through the state of Oklahoma, and we go out and do a site inspection, and we approve that site prior to that evening of the display. One of the issues that we have is that if we try to separate the one-time annual display on the 4th of July for the fireworks show, we have police, fire, sheriff, all emergency services descend on that area out there because there's a very small designated area for fireworks. Each year we don't transport a lot of people, but we have a lot of people that get burned. We have a lot of fires. We have a lot of, I don't want to speak for Chief Thomas, but I know there's some unruly folks. And so what we don't want to do is limit ourselves to be able to do event standbys, especially at another lake. I mean, if I'm packed into the spillway, which is a designated area at Perry Lake on the 4th of July, and you give me the opportunity to go to another lake park that's owned by the city of Perry, I'm probably going to take option B, and I'm going to go to CCC Lake, where it's obviously well maintained, but there are some areas around that lake that I do know of that the grass is really tall. It's a native grass, so it's very thick. And if we get fires going over in that direction, there's a lot more housing and just residential, non-residential buildings that could cause us a pretty good issue. So because of the numerous requests, for whatever reason we've had as of late, I just visited with Bryce about it the other day and asked if there was something we could put in writing. Right now, the only thing we have to fall back on is the 2019 International Fire Code, that essentially says if you're going to have a fireworks display, you also have to have a liability insurance to keep the liability off of the city of Perry. It's city-owned property, so if someone was to go out there and get hurt or damage someone's property, and we have allowed them to go have a fireworks display, at the end of the day, it's our property and we allowed it. So that was why the request to have something done in writing for CCC Lake Park.
Any discussion?
I'm actually looking at the ordinance that is attached to the document, and it's one of the ordinances that we had as we improved the ordinance, but it's not the final one, because it provides fireworks may be possessed and discharged in designated areas, dates, and times at Perry Lake is approved by the park superintendent. right? And we. and-
That'll be your grandpa.
Yeah, but we changed that, as you remember.
I thought we left a park superintendent because, you know,
Well,
obviously.
no, the dates and times, those were to
Oh,
be
sure.
done by
Oh,
the
correct, by the
council.
council,
The
right.
area designated, so this is a earlier, it's an earlier draft. I believe I sent the you know, I'll have to check.
Yeah.
But, and check me out, but I don't want to take action on this tonight. I want to get the improved one. We'll still have time before the 4th, but if there's any comment, like if you hate it, you know, let us know. What we're trying to do is let those dates and times be set by you, and then the place be designated by the park superintendent. That's the only change, but I'd like to get you the correct document. I think it's, it's pointed out properly in the background. Yeah, sorry.
So you're gonna bring this back to us?
Yeah, I think so. Does anyone have any comments about it? I mean, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to preserve CCC Lake. There's so many more trees,
Yeah, it's
nicer
so wooded,
trees.
trees.
It's wooded.
That'd be
You
a
know,
disaster.
we've put money in there with our trails and all that, and we're just trying to. Now, that isn't to say that you can't do it, because the ordinance says you can do it. You can approve a display over there, but if you take action on this, then, you know, we can say, you know, I guess we can put it on the agenda. It leaves it up to you to do it, you know, to allow it. And I suppose there was a time when we had great rains, right, there, and we switched over to CCC Lake rather than
Right.
Perry Lake, and there was no problem because there was no burn ban. There's so, you know, it still gives that opportunity to, but it would be your decision, rather than the fire chief's, and he would appreciate that, correct?
Yeah, something to, I mean, that I can.
To
reference
provide
to say-
guidance,
Yeah,
provide
absolutely.
guidance,
Absolutely.
yes.
Something referenced to say we allow it or we don't. I mean, personally, I'm fine either way. If I lived out there, I wouldn't be fine, you know, especially if it was my property. I mean, you know, like Bryce was saying, we've got multiple buildings on the grounds out there at CCC Lake, and if memory serves me right, I don't know that the public was allowed, I mean, maybe they were, I don't remember that, if the public was allowed to
Yeah.
actually pop fireworks. It seemed like it was just the display that the city had taken out there.
Well, and how would you patrol all the trails and all of the, I mean, that, it'd be almost impossible.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Just very briefly, being we're talking about CCC Lake, I was under the impression that we locked that park up at night. And I've come by there multiple times late at night and it's never locked. So, Chief, are your officers locking that up at night?
What the guy that lived there was kind of doing, I don't think we have anybody living there now, though, do we?
No, nobody lives there now.
So how does it get locked up then, Larry?
I thought that we sent officers around at night and in the morning to lock it at night
Well,
too.
we did the
Unlock it.
cemetery, but we didn't lock it on behalf of that guy living there, and he shut it at night when the guy lived there.
Okay,
So if
I
there's
mean,
somebody.
someone needs to coordinate something. If that's supposed to be locked up at night. it needs to be
take care of
locked.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we have a motion to table item 8
So moved.
until the next meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines. Yes. Marshall.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Dilbeck.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Calderon.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item B, approve a public display of fireworks at the Perry Lake for July 4th, 2022, to be conducted by Tom Davis and Gary May. Something we do every year.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines. Yes. Marshall.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Dilbeck.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Calderon.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 9, consider purchase of an E1 pumper model FC94 fire truck and equipment from Banner Fire Equipment fire chief and safety division pursuant to their state bid price and appropriate the required local match from the city's reservoir, reserve, or such other accounts or funds as designated by the governing body.
This is great news. We got the grant. We have to appropriate the balance. Do you have the estimate or the invoice?
We do have the invoice.
So what is the amount? The difference?
589, and I believe 589,762 was the total delivery
Okay,
price.
so we need 289.
But then there's some
Plus
additional
the,
equipment.
plus the,
Yeah.
that included that equipment.
Oh, that included that? Oh, okay,
Yes.
oh, okay. I thought we
That's
went
total
305.
delivered.
Total delivered price, that's all state bid contract pricing, which is how we could procure that equipment through the competitive bid process because it was on a state bid price. That's using what's called Sourcewell. You may be familiar with NASPO or OMES or HGAC. Sourcewell is just another one of those on the list that does state bid contract pricing. And so the truck and all the equipment that is going to be put on that truck is all state bid price. So, and Bryce, you may have visited with Marita today. Marita's with Parkhill and Associates, that's who administering the grant. And that's where that total dollar amount's going to come to the 609,762 or whatever it is. So there's still about another 9,700 and some change that we have to come up with. So one of the things with going through this place called Sourcewell is that if you, and the city of Perry does have a Sourcewell number, so if we go through that, it's a flat $1,500 for us to purchase that truck. Basically, we have to pay that company for doing the state bid pricing and to go out and do the competitive bidding on our behalf. Where if we use NASPO, HGC, one of those others, we have to pay 1.5% of the total purchase price. So if we go another direction besides Sourcewell, it's going to have to add about another $3,900 to the overall price, because that's not added in that truck. I did request that the sales representative, when he put that bid together, that he utilize the Sourcewell purchase. Again, just because it's $1,500 flat rate rather than nearly $6,000 for us to complete the purchase.
So if you want to do this, you would conditionally approve the purchase of the fire engine through Sourcewell and purchasing it through, you're purchasing it from Banner doing business as Chief Fire and Safety, subject to the receipt and approval of the CDBG Notice of Contract Award, which is coming tomorrow. You just want to make it subject to that. We'll get that tomorrow and we'll sign that. In addition, you'll want to appropriate, how many dollars, Russ?
Well, we'll need to appropriate, let's do 300,000 and just, that'll give us enough.
And
The
appropriate
appropriation.
300,000, and that's coming from next year's ARPA, or this
From the ARPA
fiscal
funds,
year
yes.
ARPA fund.
From the ARPA.
Correct.
From our ARPA funds that we had declared as lost revenues. Let's make
So
that
if someone
clear.
was smart there, just make that nomination right quick. Or that motion.
A motion.
I like that motion like you read it.
And then also to appropriate $300,000 from ARPA funds.
From ARPA fund. Correct.
Thank you, Russell.
Second.
Did you have something, Jamie?
Yeah, I did. So that truck, it'll be here in July? Is that what this is?
Yes, so the sales representative did say that it would be here in July. And if I could say one more thing, we did seek 3 bids. Obviously, we wanted to follow the U.S. purchasing requirements, which is the competitive bid process. We did seek 3 bids. We had 3 manufacturers that came in. We had formed a truck committee. We didn't receive anything in writing from one of the companies that we requested a bid from. The other company we received a formal bid, or a quote, excuse me, it was like $680,000. And then the catch there was that the truck would be completed off the assembly line in July or August, but then we wouldn't be able to take possession for it for 10 months because they're going to parade it around the western United States for 10 months. So that was why the move forward on this particular truck, so.
And it fits in the house.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, I was gonna say, does it fit all the other things that you said you were needing on it? It does fit in the firehouse.
Not, once we get engine 7 back, the one that's in Chickasha being repaired,
Yep.
we will have to find a off-site home for that truck. For engine 7. And if you'll remember back in December, 1st of January, engine 6, which is the engine that's sitting up here now, the pumper truck that's sitting there now, that was actually scheduled to be taken to Chickasha for multiple repairs. So our engine, the only engine that we have up here right now is in need of some repairs itself. So we feel like that's gonna buy us some time, because once engine 7 comes back and we get this new pumper in service, engine 6 is gonna have to go down and get the service done that it needs.
But we still don't know the numbers. 6 is coming back.
Engine 7 is
Seven's
coming
coming
back.
back, sorry.
6 has got to go.
Yeah,
That's
6
right.
has gotta go. So 7, we don't know when 7's coming back still.
So as, you know, a couple months ago, we talked, and we were waiting on one flange that went from the new center section of the pump, so it would, you know, allow water from the tank into the pump. That flange is not gonna be, the expected delivery date is June 20th. The center section of the pump has been installed in the truck. Everything else, he said, seems to bolt up right. All the valves, he said, seem to be working fine. So once this flange comes in, hopefully we're looking at just a couple of days for them to install it. And then one of the requirements for them is they have to do a pump test, so they have to make sure it can operate at the pressures that it's required to,
Which is what it failed previously.
which is
right?
what caused it to fail to begin with.
Will that help us, or do we still have to pass that test too? Once it
No,
comes back here?
no, so that test, since that's what we were trying to perform at the fairgrounds, once that test is passed down there, that will meet the requirements we need for the insurance service office, which is what we were.
When we weren't sure if we could get that truck fixed, if they were gonna be able to get the parts, we talked about possibly selling that to another community, somebody that maybe would have better luck. Now that we've been able to fix it, do you see that we'll need to keep that, or is that something that we'll still?
So, and that's, Larry and I discussed that, maybe for the short term to keep that, because we're obviously gonna have to have 2 pumpers, you know, to be able to respond to emergencies with if it's a, you know, a structure fire. So, keep that engine 7 while engine 6 is getting repaired, and then when it's completed, you know, they're seemingly minor repairs in comparison to what's happening to engine 7. There's just a lot of gauge issues, there's a lot of lighting issues, electrical things. Hopefully it's nothing major. I maybe shouldn't have said that. But we don't anticipate it being as major of a repair as what happened with engine 7. So, yeah.
But the answer was, we will
Maybe.
look, if it comes back and everything's good with 6, we will look at,
You know, at that time, I think that's when we revisit, is it something that a 3rd pumper is needed? And one that's-
Probably what is it worth to get rid of it?
Right.
Yeah, because we also have to take care of some outside of the county, so that maybe one that you can partner and use. You know how that works.
Possibly we could get some things, yeah. And that's what we're hoping, it'll buy us some time once that truck comes back, you know, give us some time to make some of those decisions on those logistics.
Was we putting up a Carolina carport up there to park that thing?
A tall one. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's all my questions.
Any other questions?
one more?
Roll call, please.
Wines? Yes. Marshall?
Yes.
White?
yes.
Coffee?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Dilbeck?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Goldar?
Yes.
Stroller?
Yes, thank you. Item 10, continue discussions concerning SMCA Perry Hospital. Discussion and direct actions as appropriated.
Mr.
Bryce?
Mayor, yeah, we have representatives from Stillwater Medical Center Authority here. I'll tell you, we're going to just speak in general terms under item 10. We also have an executive session where we're going to discuss more directly the particular variables in the contract and any other issues that the council may have. But we really have an opportunity for a presentation about the remodel, potential costs, and we'd ask you to, Stephen, Courtney, come forward.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Taylor, Stillwater Medical. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer. I don't know how many of you know, but I've recently transitioned back to Stillwater from being CEO here, and Courtney has taken over as President and CFO. We had some retirements and things that changed at Stillwater and necessitated me going back, but Courtney is completely capable and very native and will do a great job. Ultimately, Courtney will still report to me when I'm in Stillwater, but she'll do great and we'll continue on down this road. You know, it's hard to imagine that we're almost 5 years into Stillwater Medical being here. It's been quite an interesting 4 years, with 2 of those years being COVID going on and lots of transitions and different things happening. And you know, we've come a long ways. Courtney and the entire team, you know, we had projected financial losses over $2 million when we first started, and last year it was about $277,000.
That was the loss, yes.
That was the loss for 2021. Now, fortunately for us, the citizens, you know, passed the sales tax back when they did, and that loss would have been about $500,000 more if it was not for that sales tax. So we thank the community for its commitment to keeping healthcare local, because that has helped us get to where we are. But it's also been through the work of the rest of the staff. You know, with those losses, you know, Stillwater Medical does want to remain in Perry, you know, but we can't continue on, you know, down this path. We can't, you know, we've lost over about $4.5 million Stillwater Medical has. And so we can't continue that long term. You know, if each of you had a business and were losing that much of money, you'd have to be looking at doing something different. And, you know, there's some opportunities out there with some new designations for rural healthcare, rural emergency hospital, that could be a possibility. It's a completely new designation for hospitals.
The rules have not even been passed yet, so.
Right. They're developing the rules, but it goes into effect January 1 of 2023, but we don't know the rules yet. We don't know for sure reimbursement. They've said this is what it's going to be, but we don't know exactly what that reimbursement is going to be. And so a rural emergency hospital is basically has an emergency room, and then it has observation beds. It does not have any inpatient beds.
And current outpatient services as they are.
Yes, so there will be no inpatient service. It'll be observations, so you can hold those patients, and then if they needed to go in inpatient services, they'd be transferred elsewhere. But all the outpatient services could remain.
Steve, if you don't mind, how long can you hold one in observation?
Usually around 24, but no more than 48 hours, typically.
So we get to continue the outpatient services and have an emergency room and have some observation beds there for it. You know, one other thing with the facility is, you know, it's very inefficient currently in its form. You have the emergency room in one location and inpatient beds in another location, and so you have to completely separate everything. You know, it would be wonderful if, say, 6 observation beds were closer to the emergency room, it'd be much more efficient. But there's also, we had an engineering study done, and there's lots of infrastructure issues with the current facility. Most of the mechanical ventilation, generator, all that equipment that makes a hospital run is past its end of life and needs to be replaced. So there's some significant dollars that, even if you didn't do anything, needs to be upgraded in that facility. But, you know, if you did those things and, you know, did a, quote, right-sized facility, then, you know, and the reimbursement is what they say it's going to be, then we think that it could be a successful endeavor.
I understand you're going to be doing some outreach into the community about the
This
about the
Thursday,
sales
The 9th and the 13th, down at the Heritage Center, starting at 6 o'clock.
and what will that be?
Community can come ask questions on healthcare and what healthcare is in the community.
How's that going to be advertised?
We have it on our Facebook page, on our marquee. There's some flyers at the banks, and I think
Chamber lays.
Chamber just.
The chamber has some flyers for it as well.
So can we pick that up on our Facebook page and website too, Larry?
Yes.
Facebook too.
Courtney, what are the outpatient procedures that y'all can do here? So when we're talking outpatient services, you know, your radiologies, your x-rays, CTs, ultrasounds, bone densities, mammograms, full service lab that we currently have, physical therapy.
And all those remain?
Yes, all those remain in that structure, yes.
Will y'all be bringing any new equipment into the hospital?
Well, we would, if there was some type of renovation done, we would hope that that would be part of that overall project.
What exactly does right size facility mean?
Well, you know, the average daily census for Perry is one.
So if you're talking just inpatients, it floats between 1.5 to 2 patients. So we currently have 26 beds. So there's really not a need. So when he talks efficiencies, to light 26 beds, to air condition 26 beds versus 6 beds, there's a big difference in that, cost-wise.
And you said we occupy how many?
We have
1.5 on
20,
average?
yeah, 1.5 to 2 inpatients. Now, if you put swing bed, which is a totally different class that we have, those average about 2, so you're looking at 3 to 4, so it's still not even bumping up against more than 8 a day with all statuses.
We did have higher than that during COVID, but that was quite the extreme.
Sure.
Do you still have the swing beds under the new designation? Is that something-
Right now, that's not an allowed service.
They would have to make an exception within the rules that they're still working on, so, but
They
right
could.
now it's not there.
But we could still service the 8 that you just said.
8 beds, yeah.
Yes.
Six, probably more like 6.
Okay.
How would that work with our nursing home?
Well, that would be one facility that probably would be impacted the most significantly along with Russell's ambulance crew because, you know, if they needed to have inpatient services, they would have to be transferred elsewhere.
What about our current doctors? Would they be part of that outpatient, or is that just completely different and be dropped?
So you mean the ones that serve as in the emergency room and
The ones that actually stay here, like
That's-
Family
that-
medicine type stuff.
Like Dr. Cecil?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
that
primary
wouldn't
care,
have
yeah, no,
any-
they're considered an outpatient service.
Yep.
So yes, primary care stays as it is too.
That wouldn't change at all.
Any other questions for them?
What about the specialty care?
Specialty clinic is considered outpatient
Stays
status.
the same?
It's really that inpatient side.
Yes.
And that, you know, 1 to 2 and for regular inpatient and then the 2 for
Swing bed.
swing bed.
What's a swing bed? So swing bed is kind of a step down from an inpatient, depending on insurance companies, some consider it an inpatient status, but really it's for rehabilitative services. So if they need PT or IV therapies just to get better.
Custodial care.
That is basically a service we provide to the community. That's really not a recognized status when it comes to insurance companies. We have on occasion, but that is scaled way back, if somebody needs a stint or say their caretaker's out for a week and they need a place to put their family member, we have let them stay there for a daily rate, but
Some other places call it respite care.
respite care, yeah.
If it does switch to the rural emergency, do you see that it would be staffed with doctors, rotating doctors, PAs? How would that?
It would be basically the same contract group that we have right now that would be covering the ER and then covering the observation patients as well. And most hospitals, even Stillwater, has a contract group that covers the emergency room. Now, the hospitalists at Stillwater are part of Stillwater Medical, but the emergency room is not.
Any further questions? It's your chance. Get it all out.
The hospital as it sits today, I may regret this question, but the hospital as it sits today and the size that it is, when we say right sizing, I'm sure that, I mean, if the infrastructure is out and everything else, have we,
What's the difference in building one that's actually right size, that's modernized to take care of this versus renovation of what we have?
I have had that thought, and, you know, just I'm spitballing a little bit, you know, depending on where you put it and what infrastructure would need to be found in order for that to happen. I would say, you know, probably $3 million more than what it might take to do what needs to do to make things right there. And, you know, you're gonna have a lot of extra space.
With
But
a
it-
building that still has to be renovated.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you know, I don't see the future of healthcare changing, that the Perry community is gonna ever need 26 beds again unless, you know, there's a boom and population increases significantly. You know, we recently, Blackwell now has 6 beds, and, you know, they're not.
They were at 50.
Yep, they're not quite double the size of what Perry is, but since we've gone to 6 beds, you know, our average daily census is 4.
In rural America, do you see a ratio of number of beds to population draw? I mean, because up there, I mean, you're effectively going 1 bed for every 1,000. I mean, you know, so here, you know, I mean, it'd be 1+ bed.
Yeah, you know,
I'm assuming for
at Stillwater,
every-
we budget about 10% of the population as inpatients. That's what we budgeted this year, to be inpatients. So you know, that's kind of an average.
Which, yeah, no, and that's kind of a driver that, I mean, I think, you know, helps understand
Yeah.
the concept. you
And
know.
I'll tell you, Stillwater Medical last year had 230 admissions from Perry directly. So even if every citizen from Perry that was gonna be an inpatient came here, it still would not, you know.
We could still
It's
function
not
at
even
the
one
8 to
per,
6 beds.
it's not an additional 1
Right.
per day
Right.
on average that
Right.
need to be.
We get asked that a lot. Can you give those one more time? That was 230 people from Perry that
Yeah.
you see?
Yeah. Well, direct
That was
That go
directly-
directly,
Yep.
From here.
that don't come here, that go directly to Stillwater. And then we had 200, I think, here last year.
Yes.
How would you guys function during a renovation? Would it be, or you would?
It wouldn't be fun, but we would. I mean, I've been through a lot of functioning.
Phasing.
We did it at Blackwell. It wasn't fun, but we made it.
It was painful, but you made it.
Yes.
Almost.
We're getting close. Lots of chocolate and pizza and everything else for staff to
What days do we show up?
survive.
So you said in 21, the debt was how much, or how much?
277,000 roughly, but 500,000, you know, to get us to there, 500,000 was the tax.
So this was also during all the COVID stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
So how much of a difference would it be if you, now, I don't work in hospitals, so this may not be the right question, or I may not put this the right way, but did you all get government money for the COVID?
Stillwater Medical did, but Perry by and of itself did not. So that did not factor into that $277,000 loss.
We've recently got some grant money that's allowing us to buy, like vapotherms and transport vents, but we just recently got that, and that's being spent on equipment for COVID.
The millions of dollars that other facilities have gotten and you hear about,
Perry did not.
Perry did not.
Just
get
due
any
to
of those.
population, or?
They look, so when you're talking about Medicare giving you money, they looked at their overall money that they got from Medicare in a year and said, we're gonna, actually what they call it was, here's a prepayment of all your payments. And actually Stillwater's working to actually pay that money back right now. So it's just a prepayment of money they would have gotten off estimates.
Any further? All right, thank you. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I would say that was a pretty broad discussion. We, of course, can have them stay if you want for the executive session. I do have some estimates here of what the project, the remodel will be. It'll be up to the council if the council wants to have them stay for the executive session. Are there any opinions about it, or did you get most of your questions answered?
Well, if nobody objects, I would like them to stay in case there are questions that come up.
All right, perfect.
I agree.
Yeah.
We'll move on to item 11. Update on replacing a 10-inch water main, tank modifications, generators, projects. Authorized 2 railroad crossing permits with Bnsf Railroad for the project with 2 $2,000 payments. Authorize the city managers to submit the permit for the project. We have Matt Coe here with us. Matt?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to come talk about the project?
I would. Thanks for having me. We recently just got the engineering report approved by DEQ, which means they approve of the concept and that it's eligibility to be funded through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund program. So we're ready to move forward with the construction permitting phase that involves both DEQ and the railroad crossings. Each railroad crossing, that is just the application fee. After they receive the application and start reviewing it, then they will have conditions to issue the permit, and there will be a secondary fee that will be determined after they've had to assess it. There'll also be some stipulations put on the contractors that perform work within the railroad right-of-way as far as carrying additional liability insurance and daily rates should the railroad company want to have a flagger and inspector on site. Those costs will be, the contractor will have those costs, so they will have line items in their bids when we receive bids to cover their railroad protective liability insurance and the railroad crossing permits. So those will be broke out in the bid documents themselves. It's critical that we get moving on the construction permitting phase to make sure the city is in a position to take advantage of the principal forgiveness money that should be allocated soon. It's in the intended use plan, which has not been revealed yet, so we're not sure what's coming. But project readiness is critical, and when they start ranking projects and being able to get to the board at that instant when that money becomes available will be critical as well. The Clean Water State Revolving Fund for wastewater had a $9 million allocation this year. That will probably go very quickly. I suspect that the DWSRF monies will go away fairly quickly too, but they're probably going to keep infusing money into this program over the next several years. There also, some ARPA money is going to be coming down the pike as well too for these projects. So they're going to have a $25 million allocation that communities under 7,000 can receive up to $500,000 grants, applying similar to a OWRB REAP grant. For dam safety projects, you can get up to $1 million of that money, but your dam probably needs to be a high hazard dam to qualify for that. So any projects that are coming up and close to being ready to bid, it's a good time to get them ready because these dollars are going to become available and we want to be first at the trough. So I think the first board meeting after the fiscal year will be in August. So I would like to get this permit and advertise this for bids, provided they say the allocation is available in August. So,
could you speak to in general terms, to the project?
Yes.
And then, the way I'd like to see it bid is with add alternates.
Absolutely.
So that, the council can determine, how much appetite they have for debt.
That's right. We want to bid out sections of line in different sections. That way the council has a lot of control over what that final dollar amount is. We want to break the railroad track bores out. Those are going to be costly. And then we'll break the line out into sections. The line is starting basically at the entrance to Ditch Witch, and we're going to interconnect there to the 12-inch loop on the west side. It's just tied together with a 6-inch now that we're trying to get out of service right now. And so we're going to take off from the 12-inch and lay back east to replace the antiquated 10-inch loop that is the main loop through town. So it'll come down Fur and then it'll turn north on 15th Street and go to the school and turn east down Caw, and go by the old tank site that used to be there, all the way down to 6th Street, and then come, or about 7th Street, and then come south down 7th Street, about a block south of Fur, tie back in there, and then we have the 2 railroad crossings down there on 6th Street and just the little apartment complex, housing complex there on the south side of the tracks to replace those 2 crossings. There's also 2 incidental areas that are problematic creek crossings that we'll be replacing some 6-inch. In total, there is about 15,000 feet of water main that is being replaced. At the towers, we have some items that DEQ listed in a notice of violation that we're addressing, as far as flap gates on the overflow valves, some signage on the fences, things like that. We're also going to replace the altitude valves that are not functioning properly, so we can get those towers back to full capacity and utilize them the way they're intended. We're also going to install tank mixers and pipe insulation to alleviate some of the freezing issues that the city had during the October Arctic blast. We also have generators. We're going to look at putting generators in at the 2 booster pump stations and at the water treatment plant. We also have replacement of 3 high service pumps. And that,
What will be the impact on pressure at people's homes and also on fire hydrants? Is there some benefit there?
absolutely, there'll be an enhanced firefighting capability because now we have a true loop around the entire city with a large diameter main. That will be very critical to any industrial development going out west towards Sooners Corner there to provide additional flow. It's also going to provide the capability for additional storage to come back into the east side of town, because we have 2 pressure zones right now. The 15th Street towers are at 1 elevation, and then the west tower sits up taller than the other ones. So what we're going to allow is a control valve in front of Ditch Witch that will let the water run either way in the event we have an instance at Ditch Witch or other facilities in the town that starts diminishing storage, so we can utilize the full storage throughout town. We're also going to see better capability to isolate systems because we're going to have new valves on all the branching mains. This loop basically feeds every 6-inch and 4-inch main throughout town. Everything is branched off of it. So when it comes time to start isolating leaks, everywhere we cross a main, we now have a new valve that will provide us capability to isolate our system, and we should have less line leaks along this main. And so that will be nice for upcoming road improvement projects when you don't have to dig up new road to fix water lines.
Any questions? Pretty exciting stuff. Thank you, Matthew.
There's some good stuff coming down the pike with the infrastructure bills and everything, so if there's other projects, and time to think long and hard about what's the priorities are, so we can take advantage of some of this free money. You know.
I do want you to take a look at our Perry Dam project and see if there is any availability to get that funding.
Yeah, I heard the same thing.
Yeah,
I hazard
did you
dam is
know?
what I heard.
Yeah, I heard that too, because
Yeah, I got a grant for one community for the design portion of a dam, and now they're eligible for a follow-up project.
we're ready we've got plans, and we've got $10 million allocated by the federal and state, but we still have dollars that we need to do, and I just want to see if there's an opportunity there.
I'm a good dam engineer, so.
Well, we got a dam project.
Just waiting for it. Just waiting for that.
All right, any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Thank you.
Good dam engineer.
All right, we need to authorize these 2 permits.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wines.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Dilbeck.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 12, approve the following invoices for Myers Engineering Consulting Engineering Incorporated. The water main replacement project in the amount of $9,418.82. Clarifier repair project in the amount of $3,042. And Phase 5 sanitary sewer replacement project engineering service, survey service in the amount of $3,226.50. So the damn engineer would like to be paid.
This isn't a part of that free money he was talking about?
The water line project is reimbursable once we close the loan through the water board, so that money, any money expenses up front that you had for getting the construction permit, project solicitation can be reimbursed through that fund. The clarifier job, that was just trouble. Trouble was there, so hopefully some of that money we saved on the handrails could be
Yeah, where did we end up on that?
Oh, we got proposals, oh geez, what was it,
22,000.
22,000, and then I talked to NODA, and they wanted to see at least a maintenance bond on the work, so they added 5% to that, so a little bit better.
I was told that they're gonna come back, they had to go to another project, but they're coming back to do it.
That's right, yeah, they asked if they could put it off for a couple weeks to go take care of somebody that was in a bind, so.
And the clarifier project's finished?
The clarifier worked out real well. I stopped by here on just right when they had finished getting it taken apart, and they were getting ready to take off and go back to Texas to make a part, and I said, hold on, I know a guy. So I called and was able to get a part manufactured here out of Oklahoma City and got it to him by the next day. And so it's pretty robust. It's the way they should have built it in the first place, so I was happy to get it up and going again, so. And they did run into a few other items during that clarifier repair. There were some seals out on the drive that they had to order those seals in, so once they got into it, there was a little bit more work that you couldn't see until you tore into it, so.
It's kind of typical.
Is there any reason to go over to the other clarifier and check that, and check that out, make sure that that's not, I mean, is that the way you do it, or?
Well, they could pull it down and we could look at it if they wanted to drain it out and clean it, so. I don't think that's Tim's favorite thing to do is to spray out clarifiers, but yeah, I mean, we could take a look at it.
Would that make sense?
That's what's nice about clarifiers is they're relatively simplistic in their design, and you can keep rebuilding these things. It just for a long time until you start getting structural issues with the structure itself and the concrete starts to wear out. So, I mean, we should get some more life out of this clarifier there now. So, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to look at it. It's always good every year to kind of go through and see where you're at on your equipment. So. I mean, you can't see it down there in the sludge, so if they want to pull it down and look at it, I would recommend it.
All right. Motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
White,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Schroeder.
Yes, thank you. Authorize the purchase of a 1,500 kVA three-phase pad-mounted transformer for $58,570 or $472. A 2,500 kV three-phase transformer for $96,945, and a 500 kV three-phase transformer for $31,820 from Prolec General Electric. Waive formal competitive bidding pursuant to Section 7-114 of the Perry Municipal Code of 2022 as the same is deemed necessary in the public interest and pursuant to the city manager's certification of the specific facts and for reasons for waiver. It appears that we're buying these transformers for the future work, some of them for the future work at Ditch Witch. It says they reimburse us for them. Is that correct, Larry?
Yes, sir.
Where's the third one go? Two of them is,
A $58,000 one?
Yeah.
Brian told me that we just need that. That's for us, but he didn't give me a place.
Inventory or
Backup in case we go down.
So it won't be reimbursed?
Huh?
That one won't be reimbursed?
No, that one of them's, yeah, one of them's not reimbursed. I think we said which ones will be reimbursed. These take an incredible lead time now to get done, and so he was
31 weeks.
kind of emphatic about, we need them, and these will be used for the ones out at Ditch Witch for some expansion that's occurring out there. Now, this is the first time that I know of that we have received, our policy was that we put out, all the dollars for all the upgrades, not just Ditch Witch, but, pretty much for any business and residents and all that. And we've gotten to the place where we just said, those ratepayers, particularly the seniors and ones, they just cannot afford to keep paying for those. But we've done it forever. This is going to be the first time with respect to.
I think Richard Crowe bought his own.
Yeah, we did, but with respect to Ditch Witch.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
And we did it with respect to the to the grow out at the commercial park, and then, as you know, we ended up working that out. So this is all changing, but it does protect our bottom line and our reserves. So in answer to your question, this is another way that we're trying to be more conscious with our dollars, and this is a significant amount of money.
So will this payment be out of 22's budget and the reimbursement would be in 23's?
No, we actually won't end up paying for these until 23. I mean, the
Until we receive
31,
it?
yeah, the 31
Okay.
will leave, it'll all
It's not a
show.
prepayment, it's
in,
a-
right.
on receipt.
Correct.
What are you gonna do, council?
Just trying to decide how much of this I have to read.
Disapprove the purchase?
The recommendation.
But don't we have to authorize the waiver for formal bidding?
Yes. Yeah, I think just make a motion to and then read the recommendation. I think that
Okay.
says it.
I make a motion to approve the city manager's certification and authorize waiver for further formal competitive bidding at the same as deemed necessary in the public's interest. Authorize the purchase of transformers in the amount of $187,237.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Dilbeck.
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroh.
Yes, thank you. Item 14, authorized payment of contractor's application for payment number 1 to Horseshoe Construction Incorporated for work performed on the citywide sanitary sewer Phase 5 capital improvement project in the amount of $215,911.25. So this is the outfit that's putting in Phase 5 sewer up in North Perry.
Matthew, do you have any comments on this?
Work's progressing satisfactorily, and I think they've had some slowdowns on account of rain, but I know they've provided some submittals for some manholes, so they're making progress. They've also needed some staking for the little cut across that we did, where we had to get the easement there. So,
Right.
other
They were
than that,
working hard and fast there for a while, till the rain moved in.
Yeah, that'll slow them down. It's hard to work around water when it's flowing at you like that. So.
Especially in the creek bottom here where they went, it seemed like.
Yeah, at least they had the sense to get their equipment out of the flood zone. I had a contractor that didn't have that much sense here a while back in another town, so.
Right. Thank
Motion to approve payment?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Dolbeck,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 15, approve professional service agreement with CBEW Professional Group LLP to provide financial audit for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2022 for an estimate $17,100. This is a group we've had do our audits for several years now. Russ, do you have any comments or anything?
The only thing I'm gonna say is we need to be happy that we actually have a renewal application, or, that they want to engage us. We've actually reached out to Chuck about picking up a couple of other audits for us where we've lost the auditors, and he said we're just swamped. We're gonna take care of what we have in-house, but we're not looking to add anything else. So from that standpoint, I guess I'm telling you that we're losing auditors in other communities. The fact that we're keeping an auditor says we must not be too bad of a client. They at least like to work with with the people, and they have at least enough space to carry us on for next year. So it is becoming a significant issue in municipal government right now. So I'll leave it at that.
So is that gonna be a service you're gonna start off with?
No. We get calls, literally, I bet I turn down 5 a month for people that need signed audit opinions. And it's not that we can't do it, we're actually certified to do it. We don't have enough time to take care of our clients for what we have to do. And if I could hire enough people to take care of our clients, the way we need, then maybe we'd look at it. But it's
Can you do that?
resources. You can't find people, and it's a hard deal. On this light, just it doesn't directly affect us, but the state legislature this past session passed a law that populations under 2,500 only have to have an audit now every 2 years. If that tells you how bad the resources are getting to have an audit even completed. So, we don't qualify for that. No, think that we're going every 2 years, but that's what the scarcity is.
And you can't do it if you have an OWRB loan, because they will only accept an annual audit, so.
This number seems a little different. Is it?
It's about $5,000 higher
Higher?
than what we usually pay.
Okay.
Yes,
Thought it
but
was-
that is,
Supply and demand, huh?
exactly. It's not 25,000, okay? And that was actually what I had expected, so. I'm very happy that is 17,000. It is more, yes, but I'm very happy at what that number is.
You didn't tell them that, did you?
No, I didn't tell them what I know what the increases have been everywhere, or everywhere, across our client base at least, and I'm more than happy at that number.
Motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve professional services agreement with CBEW Professional Group.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown, Dolbeck,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 16, approved contract for services and lease agreement, the We Heart Nutrition Project. Every year we approve this contract with them.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Dolbeck,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Item 17, any new business needs to come before the city this evening? Hearing none. Item 18, consider convening an executive session for 1, to confer on a matter pertaining to the economic development of the city of Perry, to discuss a proposal to remodel and extend the lease of the hospital and thereby approve the economic development of the city, as a public disclosure of the proposal will interfere with the development and implementation of this proposal pursuant to 25 OS 307C 11 of Oklahoma statute as amended. Number 2, to conduct a performance evaluation of City Manager Larry Pennell as provided in his employment agreement pursuant to Title 25, Section 307B1 of the Oklahoma statute as amended.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Wines,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Goldar,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. That's where it starts. All right, I'd like a motion to reconvene, please, in regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Wines.
Here.
Marshall.
Yes.
Yes. White.
Here.
Coffee.
Here.
Brown. Dilbeck.
Here.
Bond.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.
So
Any
that's
action?
supposed to be yes.
Take any action with respect to executive session? 21, motion on adjournment. Roll
Second.
call.
Wines.
Yes.
Marshall. Yes. White.
Here, yes.
Coffee.
Yes.
Brown.
It was too late.
Dilbeck.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes.